A summer of record-breaking heat is drying up rivers across Europe as around half of the continent faces an unprecedented drought. In the UK, the driest July in over 80 years has largely evaporated the source of the River Thames. Italy's longest waterway, the River Po, has sunk to record lows, threatening food production. And here in Germany, low water levels in the Rhine are threatening to make boat passage impossible, cutting off a major shipping route. Scientists have warned that climate change means extreme heat and drought will be more common in the future.
Desolate, dry and desperate for rainfall. This is the current state of the River Rhine in western Germany.
Normally, the water level of the Rhine here in Cologne is about 3 meters. At the moment, it's just 85 centimeters. At other points along the river, the water is already below 40 centimeters.
This boat restaurant is supposed to float, but the low water level means it's currently on a lean.
Of course, we're hoping that it rains in Switzerland and in southern parts of Germany. Then we'll get the water that we need to be a boat restaurant again and float as usual.
Still, guests are happy to come and see the unusual view.
The water level of the Rhine is certainly worrying at the moment compared to its usual level.
I'm very worried about the drought and the low water. I can see the shipping is suffering, fish are suffering, and the environment is suffering.
Dozens of ferries transport tourists and commuters across the Rhine, but Nicholas Thiel's service could grind to a halt in a matter of days. He's already thinking about long-term solutions.
We'll have to adapt the ships accordingly, and if necessary, we'll have to use new ships that have a lower draft. But there will be solutions. The Rhine could be deepened, for example. That's already under debate.
For bigger freight ships, however, the economic consequences could be more extreme. The Rhine is used to transport masses of industrial raw materials, including coal. But many barges are being loaded at just 1/4 capacity to keep them higher in the water, which means dividing up cargo among more boats. Just 4 years after a historic drought in the region, the low water levels are also ramming home the impacts of climate change.
After the drought in 2018, we asked ourselves whether this was a great outlier, whether this would only occur once every 200 years. But now we have this situation again, 4 years later, in a similar form. It seems that these conditions will occur more frequently in future.
Many people here fear that water levels will sink even further in the coming week, which could lead to even more disruption of traffic here on the Rhine. Weather forecasts point to some potential rain, but that won't ease the situation overnight.
For more, I'm joined by Andrea Toretti. He is a scientist who specializes in climate change at the European Drought Observatory. Welcome to DW, sir. Considering current conditions and forecasts, is there a chance the drought in Europe can get even worse?
Good morning. By looking at the short-term forecast, we see that finally some rain could come next week. But by looking at the seasonal forecast for the next 3 months, there is still a risk of drier than usual conditions. So it's a bit early to say, but clearly there is still some risk.
So what happens on the ground is at the mercy of what comes from the sky. It's an overused phrase, I suppose, but do the current conditions represent the new normal for Europeans?
Not yet, but they might become the new norm if we do nothing in terms of effectively mitigating climate change through cutting the emission. Basically, these kind of events could become the norm already in the worst projections at mid-century, meaning that they could occur almost every year.
I'm curious, is this drought as historically bad as it actually seems, or are we just paying closer attention to all things climate change?
It seems to be actually the worst on record. We haven't completed the analysis because the event is still ongoing, but by looking at the worst event, the one of 2018, it was the worst looking back at least the last 500 years. this year event seems really to be much worse than the 2018 in terms of special extent, in terms of persistence, as well as in terms of severity.
Scientists are mostly proud pragmatists, as you well know, but are you worried by what you see around you?
Of course, I am, because you see the impacts of these events. What is really worrying me a lot is the occurrence of concurrent events all around the world, because the drought in Europe is only one drought. We shouldn't forget the other ones, for instance, affecting East Africa with the incredible humanitarian crisis there, the persistent multi-annual drought in South America affecting La Plata Basin. So that this is what is really worrying me the most.
Well noted. Climate scientist Andrea Turretti, many thanks.
Thank you.